They say that the first crisis that many couples face in their marriage is the birth of a first child. And I can say with experience that that is probably pretty true. My name is Kimberly Holmes, and I'm the CEO of Marriage Helper. And over this past year, my husband and I have become parents for the first time. And I can tell you that we have had quite the experience. I will say this was not the first crisis that happened in our marriage. That came several years before. But I can say that it has absolutely affected our marriage in ways that we probably weren't prepared for, but have been amazing. But in this video, I want to share with you the 5 things that I have learned about how parenting affects marriages in our first year of marriage. And I hope some of this speaks to you as well. My husband and I have a little bit of a different story in the fact that we didn't have a newborn from day one. In fact, it was about a year ago that we were in India and we were about to go to sleep for the last night as a family of 2 to wake up the next morning to go and get our children that we had never met before from an orphanage and automatically become a family of 4. We doubled our family literally overnight. I asked myself throughout the adoption process many times, how do you sleep the night before you know you're about to meet your children? And the answer is, you don't. And then you never sleep again. I'm only kind of kidding. But we automatically went from having just the 2 of us to having a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I can say that it was absolutely a shock, but in so many good ways. If you're a parent, you totally understand this, but you probably understand that parenting has affected your marriage in ways that it didn't get affected before, because now you have a whole new set of things to think about, to worry about, to discuss that you probably didn't even know would ever come up in your life before. Here's the first thing that I learned in my first year as a parent. Tired as a mother is real, or a father. Because equally, we do a lot together, right? I'm not more tired than him. He's not more tired than me. We're both tired. And it's not even because our kids don't sleep. They do. But there's this new layer of mental exhaustion that occurs as a parent. You're constantly juggling your own to-do list with the needs of your kids. And then there's always a lot of noise, a lot of needs, a lot of things that you're thinking about that you weren't thinking about before. And here's the thing. The reason that takes a toll on your marriage is because before you had all this extra time in your mind, even just the space in your mind to think about what you were going to do for date night or what kind of trip you wanted to go on or anything, what new show you wanted to watch together. You had all the extra time in the world to spend on each other. Pros and kudos to you if you took advantage of that time because you realized quickly once it's gone, you'll never be getting it back. But the reason that parenting can be so hard on a marriage is because there is that new level of exhaustion. There's this new level of irritability, and it's probably a little bit lower than it was before you became a parent. And if you're not aware of that in your spouse and in yourself, then it can change the way that you communicate with each other. Because before, when you had time to talk about things, when you had silence to talk about things, then you probably made more of an effort. But now when there's so much noise, when there's so many needs, when there's so much going on, the conflict and the fights that you have can increase. And if you're not aware of how each of you are doing internally, even just with the regular parenting needs that your kids need from you, if you're not aware of that from each other, you can start to assume the worst about each other, not the best, and the conflict can increase. It's not a good thing. Here's the second big thing that I learned in my first year as a parent. You have to be on each other's team. My husband and I, we had all of the discussions, at least we thought, before we brought our kids home. We would talk about the things we wanted to do, our dreams of vacations we wanted to have, or things we wanted to teach our kids, or ways that we wanted to handle issues when they would arise. And even when we talked about them, it still changed in the moment. There would be things that would come up we had no clue were going to happen. And if I, for a minute, was against my husband, especially in front of the kids, it led to a downfall of everything. And same with him for me. There's things that you're not going to think to discuss with your spouse because you wouldn't imagine that some of these things would happen. And if you're a parent, you know what I mean. And in the moment, if you make a decision in front of your kids and in front of your spouse and in front of family and friends, the last thing that you want your spouse to do is to refute you or rebuke you or disrespect you in that moment in any way, because you have to be on each other's team. You have to be on each other's team in your children's eyes. You have to be on each other's team in the eyes of everyone else, because another thing that I have learned throughout this year is everybody wants to give you an opinion. And everyone wants you to do their opinion, their way, and they will tell you that if they think your spouse is an idiot or if they think that your spouse is doing something that they wouldn't do. You have to protect your marriage. And you have to protect your spouse. You have to protect your wife. You have to protect your husband. And you have to be on their team. I can't tell you how many times when my husband and I fight, and I will look at him in the middle of it and I'll say, I'm on your team. And sometimes we forget that. It can be easy to forget when you're fighting about who's going to get up and change the last dirty diaper, who took out the trash last, who's doing more of the housework, whatever it might be. It can be difficult to remember you're on each other's team. You're here to support each other, and you have to be that unified front in front of everyone else. Here's the third thing that I have learned. You have got to set aside a time every single week to connect with your spouse. For us, every Saturday night is a date night. We have babysitters and we are fortunate to have family nearby, but we have prioritized that time. And I'm not going to lie to you. There are many Saturdays that come and I am thinking to myself, I don't want to go. Not because I don't want to spend time with my husband, although sometimes that might be part of it. But a lot of times it's, I'm tired. I've been working all week. I just want to lay on the couch and watch Netflix all night long. But I also realize I have got to prioritize spending time and connecting with my husband outside of our house and away from our children. A lot of times we can put our kids first, and it can be easy to where you're always talking about the kids, and the kids are the only thing that you talk about. And that's good. You should talk with your spouse about the kids and the funny things they do and how smart they are and how great they are or the issues that you're having. Of course you need that. But you don't need for your kids to become the center of your marriage. And I always said I wouldn't let that happen before becoming a parent. And then as we have become parents, I can see how easy it is to let that happen, to let the only thing that you talk about each night having to do with the kids. And you can start to disconnect and to start not really knowing who each other is. That is the importance of setting aside the time every single week to connect. Do it. Prioritize it. Do what it takes. Even if it's just going into the backyard and having a nighttime picnic after the kids go to bed, make sure it happens. Here's the fourth thing. No matter how much you talk about how you want to parent or decisions that you'll make or things like that, things are going to change. And you're going to need to be flexible. What I have seen in our marriage as our parenting relationship has unfolded is that I've actually learned way more about my husband and about his childhood than I ever knew before. But you see, the way that I have learned those things is because he would say something or make a decision or have an opinion about things that I wouldn't agree with. And at first, I would just outright disagree. We would go into the bedroom, close the door, and we'd fight about whatever it was. And after a couple of months of this, I thought, no, there's something we have got to connect with about this. We've got to be on each other's page. Like I said before, we have to be on each other's team. So instead of me being rigid and trying to get him to always do things the way that I thought they should be done, I decided I'm just going to ask him why. Why does it matter to you? Why is it important to you that things happen this way, that the kids play with that kind of toy, or that we do this at this time, whatever it might be? Why is that important to you? And what I ended up finding out was it usually led to a story of my husband explaining how his childhood was and what his parents would do, or fond memories that happened for him. And the same was with me. I mean, for me, a huge part of my childhood was family vacations and going and doing things together. For my husband, they didn't have very many family vacations. Instead, they would play a lot of games at home together. So it was very easy at first for me to say, we need to go somewhere. We need to do something. We need to get out of the house. And my husband would say, no, we need to stay in. We need to do things together here as a family and try and play games. And when we didn't understand the why behind each other's reasoning, it was easy to fight about it. But once I started understanding why he had the feelings he had, what those came from in his life, it actually bonded us closer to where both of us were willing to make concessions and compromise on things and more willing to be flexible. And here's the fifth thing that I learned. I needed to change my mindset from look what all I do to wow, look what all you have done. The first several months of us being parents, I was on maternity leave, thankfully. I had a 4-month maternity leave, and my husband during that time was working full-time, 12-hour shifts, night shifts, and it was crazy. After that 4 months, my husband decided that it wasn't good for our family for him to be doing those night shifts, so he ended up quitting his job, and he became the stay-at-home dad while he's working on his master's degree. So he became the stay-at-home dad, and I went back to work. We're a family that does it a little differently, and it works amazingly for us. But what I found was after I started working again, I would come home at the end of each day, and not only would I feel that burden of I've been working all day, I'm tired, I want to sit down, I want to relax, but I might walk into a messy house. And all of a sudden I would say, what have you done all day? And now I have to come in and I have to help with the dishes and I have to fold the clothes and I have to do this, that, or the other. And what I failed to realize and to even remember from my 4 months as a stay-at-home mom was you do a lot all day and it may never look perfect in the house, but you're connecting with the children. You're doing things that don't have that value in that moment of the things looking great, but you're investing in the eternal value of your children and the family bond with it. And it was so easy for me to come in and make a judgment about what I walked into and to start thinking of all the things I was doing and the things that were on my plate. When in fact, what I needed to do was change that mindset to Rob. That's my husband's name. Rob, you have done amazing today. Thank you for staying home with the kids. Thank you for taking them to the park. Thank you for making sure that they are fed and that they're doing well. Look at all of the things you've done. How can I help you? And we have to do that as parents. When we become opposite of each other and we feel like I'm doing this and they're doing that and we're not doing it together, that's when frustration comes. That's when disconnection happens. And that's when you start to turn away from each other. That's when the kids become all you can talk about because you don't like thinking about the other person or talking to the other person, because when you do talk, all you do is fight. And that is what we don't want in your marriage. Parenting, as you know, is hard. It presents its own new set of challenges, but it also its own new set of joys and feelings of love that you've never had before. But the last thing you want to do in the middle of it is sacrifice your marriage just because you're a parent. Prioritize your marriage. In our workshops that we have for marriages, this is something that we hear all of the time from the people who attend, that they had kids, they got busy, and they started drifting apart. And then one day they look up and they say, I don't even know you anymore. And what's more than that is I don't even like you. And we don't want you to get to that point. Our workshops can help you no matter where your relationship is, no matter what situation your marriage is in. We would love for you to come and experience the strengthening that can come for your marriage during that 3 days. But we also have online courses and we have coaching available to you wherever you might be around the world to help you in whatever is going on in your marriage. You can visit us at marriagehelper.com, or you can call us and talk to any of the people on our team at 866-903-0990. And you'll be in good company because they all understand what it's like to be parents. We would love to speak with you. We would love to connect, and we would love to help your family grow stronger by making your marriage grow stronger.